Today we see transpiration and its types in this video. As we know, every plant get water through their roots and supply that water to the upward part of that plant continuously. Out of all water, absorbed water, 2 to 3% of the water is utilized for the process of plant, that is for the growth and development of that plant. Near about 97 to 98% of the water lost from the aerial part of the plant, that is by the process called transpiration. What is transpiration? The loss of water in the form of water vapors from the aerial part of the plant is called transpiration. Now, transpiration occurs through aerial part of the plant. All the green part of the plant, they have a special pore called stomata. That stomata are present on the leaves, on petioles, on herbaceous stem, that is green stem. Now, the loss of water takes place by the stomata is called stomatal transpiration, and this is a major process of transpiration. Other also two types are also there. One by one we are going to see the type of transpiration. See the stomatal transpiration. Stomata are small pore. The number of stomata also varied from plant to plant, and in a single plant varied from one part to the other part. That is, xerophatic plant, they have more number of stomata as compared to the mesophyte. Hydrophyte, they doesn't have stomata. In a single plant, the presence of stomata is also varied. The lower side of leaf, they have more number of stomata as compared to the upper surface of that leaf. Likewise, the number of stomata varied from plant to plant and in a single plant from part to part. But that stomata are covered by a special type of cell called guard cell. These two guard cells, they are kidney shaped. In monocot, they are dumbbell shaped guard cells. Kidney shaped guard cells, they have speciality. Inner wall of that guard cells, they have thick cell wall towards the pore side, and it is inelastic. The outer side of that guard cell is made by a thin cell wall, and it is elastic in nature. This is a very special character of that guard cell, and it helps for the opening and closing of stomata. Another very important character of that guard cell is the presence of chloroplast in that guard cell. Because of presence of chloroplast, it is a epidermal cell which carry out the photosynthetic process. Other epidermal cells, they doesn't have chloroplast in their cytoplasm, so they are unable to carry out the photosynthetic process. This is a modified epidermal cell. Now that guard cells are covered by a layer of another cell that is called as subsidiary cells. Subsidiary cells helps to guard cells. The number of subsidiary cells also varied from plant to plant. Now, this is a stomatal transpiration is a major transpiration process because 80 to 90% of water loss occurs by transpiration process is because of presence of stomata. So, it is a major transpiration process. Second transpiration process is cuticular transpiration. Cuticle is a waxy layer present on the green part of the plant. The thickness of that cuticle is varied from part to part of a single plant and from plant to plant. That is depending upon the need of that plant. A waxy layer is synthesized on the upper part of the plant. Now, that waxy coating is developed by that plant for check of water, means to avoid the loss of water. But a small amount of water loss through that layer also. That is near about 8 to 10% of the loss of water takes place through that cuticle. So that transpiration is called cuticular transpiration. Third transpiration process is lenticular transpiration. Lenticles are present on wood part of that plant or on the fruits also. Now small apertures are present on the fruit. This is an apple. It shows small holes on their upper surface. That holes are nothing but the lenticles. That is to exchange the gases of respiration. Now, but small amount of water also lost through that pore. So it is a negligible transpiration process. Very few amount of water loss occurs through that lenticular transpiration. Now that lenticles are made by lenticels. They are rounded and they freely present in that area. They have large intercellular spaces. From inner side, the water enters into the intercellular spaces and loss of water occurs through that pore. This aperture is not for loss of water, it is for respiration, but few amount of water also lost through that pore. So this is a third type of lenticular transpiration. A very negligible amount of water loss through that process, that is near about 1% to 0.1% loss of water occurs through this process. Now see how the loss of water. See here, from small plant to the large or huge plant, they requires water. Every plant absorb water by the presence of their roots and supply that water towards the upper end of that plant, that is to the aerial part of that plant. And aerial part of that plant requires water for growth and development, and it is required for maintenance of body temperature. By suction pressure, water continuously absorbed upwardly by capillary action, and for the maintenance of body temperature, continuously loss of water also occurs by transpiration process. See that continuously pulling of water occurs from lower side to the upper side. You can also carry out that experiment at your home. If you want to check the transpiration and loss of water, either it is takes place by the aerial part or not. Take a potted plant, well watered potted plant, and covered it by a transparent polythene, and tightly bind that lower end of that polythene by using thread. Simultaneously take another polythene without plant in it, and keep that experiment in sunlight and observe it after some time. You will get small droplets of water in polythene, those polythene covered to the plant. That water droplets are nothing but the loss of water by transpiration process, and this polythene bag never develops such type of droplets. It make it clear that the loss of water is takes place. Now see here, type of transpiration process. There are three type of transpiration process. One is stomatal, second is lenticular, third one is cuticular transpiration. One by one you see type of transpiration. See, this is a stomatal transpiration. Now stomata, this is a stomata. These are the two guard cells, opening and closing continuously occurs. Now this is a substomatal cavity, and these are mesophyll cells. Now the movement of water continuously occurs from one cell to the other cell, and finally it enters into the substomatal cavity of that stomata, and loss of water continuously occurs by the turgidity of cells. Now this is a lenticle. They are present on the wood. Lenticles are nothing but the small apertures. They are present on the woody plants. See, small amount of water also occurs through these lenticles. These lenticles are only for the respiration, but also small amount of water lost through that process. See, these are the lenticles. Third one is cuticular transpiration. As we know that how that cuticular transpiration is there, it is negligible transpiration process that whole the surface of green part of that plant is covered by a thin waxy coating layer, that is nothing but the cuticle, but loss of water also occurs through that process, that is nothing but the cuticular transpiration, as continuously the water is absorbed by the root hairs and sent to the root, and upward pulling of water continuously occurs through a pipeline that is called as xylem, and continuously loss of water occurs from the upper part of that plant to maintain their body temperature. Now these are the mesophyll cells. Water is entering into the mesophyll cells. From mesophyll cells it enters into the substomatal cavity, and losing of water is continuously occurs from that place. Such type of process continuously occurs. That is nothing but the transpiration.